basically parenting. So this is our first ever podcast. I'm Megan.
And I'm Sean.
And together we have two adorable little monsters named Dylan and Hannah, ages 2/30 and 5/2.
Well, isn't he 6 going on 16?
You know, I don't keep track
with his attitude.
That well. Anyway, this is our first podcast, and we'd like to welcome you to our channel, hopefully, if you're listening. And, we're just your average family facing average problems. We do some pretty cool stuff, like camping, hiking.
Canoeing.
Canoeing, yeah. Definitely canoeing. And gardening.
Well, we try to garden. We're not overly successful with gardening, but we try.
Well, yeah, basically. Anyway, we do a lot of different things, and we're also homeschooling parents, so there's that and the challenges that present. And basically this podcast is dedicated to our life and parenting and the crap ton of stuff that's brought. And we're hoping that, we can hear from other parents and kind of see who's out there sharing the same experiences, the same terrors, and the same joys. To get this first podcast started, we actually want to talk about camping.
One of my favorite activities. I've been camping a very long time. For as long as I can remember, we've always been out in the woods, tents and sleeping bags, all that good stuff. So I've got a long history of camping in my history, and really want to pass it on to my kids. Have some fun with it.
I actually enjoy camping a lot. I do have a long history with it, and one of the reasons is because my parents absolutely hated the woods.
Well, it's funny, too, because early on in our relationship, for the longest time, I should say early on until maybe a few years ago, I did not know that you liked camping. I thought you were born and bred city girl and thought bears lived in every square foot of the woods and were out to eat people. So I never really brought the subject of camping
Before
up.
we go into, some more details about that, let's clear up a couple things that you might not know about us. So we're an interracial couple.
Yep.
Sean is white. I am black. I did not grow up in the city, but I did grow up in the suburbs. But culturally speaking, the woods was not a big part of my life. Let's just put it that way. I had one camping experience in my youth, and it wasn't pleasant, but I did always like the outdoors. And when I got the chance to go and be with people who actually made it enjoyable, I really did love it. And especially canoeing. Canoeing in particular, I think, made me love the outdoors. Mm-hmm. So there's that. But we're actually talking today about camping with kids.
It brings its own set of challenges, that's for sure.
And a lot of people, it's funny because a lot of people, they kind of don't want to do it.
Which is surprising because at that age, it's a really good chance to get them experience. Just after high school, I actually spent 2 summers working at a sleepaway camp where we did some overnight trips with kids of various ages. Now, granted, they were a bit older than our kids, but they loved it. I mean, getting kids involved in learning about the outdoors and hiking and camping and getting that experience early on, it helps them grow, I should say, change them, help round them out, I guess I should say.
I think rounding them out is a good way to put it because, I think kids kind of have an innate sense about outdoors. Mm-hmm. They
just want to be outside.
So whatever their perceptions change as they get older, it usually has more to do with, I think, with the parents than
I agree with that.
Than with them, as kids. And my brother, actually, he went to overnight camps a lot as he got older, and that was really different because I know I'm the older sibling and, deal with my issues in therapy. I did not get to go to sleepaway camps the way that he did. But it is nice to even see as an adult. That's one of the few things I think we actually have in common is that we do actually both like the outdoors a lot. And I think that kind of rounded him out even as an adult.
Cool.
So I am surprised, though, because me having not camped that much as a child and having experienced that, and then having friends who did camp a lot as kids, they actually are more hesitant to go camping with their kids.
Well, I mean, it comes from experience, too. I mean, it depends a lot on their experience that they had. Like I said, with my experience in camping with kids, not my own kids, of course. Well, we'll get on that later. But with other kids, like I said, they really enjoy it. You have to get them involved so they don't view it as just trudging through the woods.
Well, when you think about it, though, our friends or people in our group, or like our social circle, it's young kids. We're not talking about, see, this is how he trapped me, by the way, guys, when we got married, because he always talked about his experience being a camp counselor and all this experience with kids. Yeah, he wasn't talking about your, 5 and under. He's talking about, your 7 to 10 range or your older kids. And that's a whole different ball game. Young kids, I do see the apprehension, especially when you're talking about, we took Hannah, I think she wasn't quite a year yet when we first went camping with her. And I actually have known people who go even younger than that.
Mm-hmm.
I was very nervous, when we talked about going camping. Hannah was born in July.
Yes.
Yeah, and we had...
Because we didn't forget our kids' birthdays.
Trust me, I'm still not sure what day it is. We had actually planned on going camping with a couple of people Labor Day weekend. Mm-hmm. And so we were like, yes, we got to hurry up, and we want to make sure this baby comes on time because we want to make sure she's old enough to get her out camping. And needless to say, we did not go on that camping trip because she was born at the end of July, and we were talking about Labor Day weekend that they wanted to go camping. I don't know what the heck I was thinking and thinking that, okay, I'm going to want to go out with a newborn in the woods and, actually go camping. So that was really retarded of me. I'm sorry. It was really silly of me. But,
well, when you're making plans, they sound great. And then when they're actually looming, you kind of go, I don't know if I want to do that.
But that being said, when we've been camping before, I have seen people with young babies out there.
And there's a lot of resources out there that talk about, not even just like renting a campsite somewhere, but hardcore backpacking with kids.
Right.
And so, a lot of it comes down to how anxious you're feeling and what you're comfortable with.
So, the reason that we're even talking about camping right now is because obviously summer is almost here. And, for those of you that live on the sunny side of the U.S. or the world, we're in Michigan, okay? So we're still thawing out here, and this is May, and I'm pretty sure, like, last week we got snow.
Yeah.
So this is we have to be cautious about being optimistic right now that we might actually get into some sort of late spring.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, Michigan is beautiful as far as camping. The state parks, the lakes, everything. It just has a lot of camping opportunities, and for me, it's really important to be able to get the kids to experience that.
Yes, absolutely.
And expose them to that. And give them some sort of new experiences. So I don't actually see a reason, that we wouldn't take them camping, or that that people wouldn't want to take advantage of that. And the other thing, honestly, the big thing, and one of the reasons that I am a little disappointed that we didn't go camping more as kids is it's kind of cheap.
It's very...
once you get your gear... Which is
right.
like...
Well, there can be a bit of an initial investment. But then, again, if you go during the off-season, go during the winter to the sporting goods stores, when they're trying to clearance out last year's stuff, I know the tent that we got pretty cheap because it was on clearance. It was a sporting goods store that was clearing out their inventory, getting ready for summer during the winter. So, you plan ahead. You get the stuff on clearance. You look for... they're always doing deals to clear out the old inventory, and look online. For every new camper that's out there, I'm sure there's families out there that are saying, you know what, we don't want to do this anymore. We have this equipment. sell it on Facebook.
That's true. Actually, a lot of people sell gear and things on Facebook. But outside of your gear, it's pretty cheap to do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you talk about even reserving a campsite.
$15, $20 a night.
$20. And honestly, you're really only talking about even getting to like the $20, $30 range if you're doing the really hot sites, like the beach camping, things like that. But for what we like, we're more rustic campers.
Right. So just to clarify, when we're talking about camping, we're not talking about hauling an RV out to, a paved campsite and setting up there. We like to, when it's, sorry, I'm having a major brain fart right now. When we go camping, we tent camp. We rustic camp. That's what I'm trying to say. We like to unload the car, set up the tent, and unplug. Basically, that's kind of why we do it a lot. Is to try and unplug from life and get back to something more natural.
And this is not to knock people that do it the fancy way.
A little bit. I'm a bit of I'll admit, I'm a bit of a camping snob.
For me, and it's really funny because most people who know me personally are like my husband. Now, just to give you some idea, guys, here, when we talk about, this isn't like we've been married for 8 years, but we've been together for about 15 years. And she says it like it's been 30. So when he says that he didn't know that I like camping, we're talking about this is high school me to 30-year-old me, that he didn't know I like camping during all that time, or that I like the outdoors. So let's talk about level of attentiveness there. But honestly, most people who know me probably wouldn't think I like camping because I like new, I like modern, I like clean. And it's weird for me because like in my mind, I have to have a separation. I don't like my indoors to be outdoors, and I don't like my outdoors to be indoors. That's basically how it works. So for me, the idea of tent camping is awesome. I love it when I'm out. To me, it keeps me outdoors. RV camping, things like that, it just feels really, I don't know. That's where, to me, I don't like the term rustic because I don't feel that that's rustic. I feel that that's just dirty outside. Like I don't know what it is, but I don't like small enclosed spaces, which again, crazy because I like tents. Mm-hmm. But I don't. I'm sure there's some mom out there. I'm sure there's some mom out there that can relate. But even in a tent, I still feel okay. I'm outside. I don't feel like I'm enclosed. But so basically, my craziness aside, I'm not an RV camper, but I don't, take issue with anybody that chooses to do that. Again, we have actually a couple we know that just bought and remodeled their own RV, and they love it. They think that's the best way to camp with kids, and they are all for it. For me, that just seems like another thing I have to clean afterwards. So I don't know about all that.
And you can't shake out your RV when you're done and get all this out like you can with a tent.
No, you can't. I mean, well, that's beach camping though. 'Cause that's a whole nother story.
Well, why don't we talk about that for a minute?
Well, yeah, because
so
when we talk about camping with kids too, that's the other thing, is there are a lot of options. So we kind of talked about the RV versus the tent. Mm-hmm. Now, I know why I'm against an RV, but for people who are pro RV, I see the advantage.
Right. Well, like with our experience when we took Hannah camping, we we went and camped on Lake Michigan. There was I can't remember the name, but it was on the beach, and it was a paved state park, was it? I think it was.
It was technically a state park. But it was
I don't remember what it was.
I know where it was. It's actually very popular.
So our campsite was just
Muir's. It was Charles Muir State Park.
Yes, Charles Muir State Park. And it was a nice area. Our campsite was on the other side of a little sand dune, and then Lake Michigan. Right?
It was a nice area.
But so the issue that we took with that was it was very crowded. So And a lot of the rustic campsites, there's a little more separation between the sites. There's trees. You're not staring at somebody, the person next to you. With ours, or with that one, it was essentially open, and so we were next to an RV, or I think there were either a camper or something.
We were in between several RVs for that one.
And so, and those particular campers, they had their music going and stuff, and it was like a party for them, which is great. It wasn't what we were looking for though when we wanted to camp with the kids. The other problem is we went a little early in the season.
No, we didn't actually.
Oh, so it was just cold as cold.
See, this is when we talk about that crazy Michigan weather, because this was actually August. This was actually August that we went, and we were we were just not prepared for this particular experience.
That's a good point.
Because this was our first time camping with our daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And, our kids have a 3-year age gap. So we were just over preparing for something. In some ways we were over prepared, in some ways we were under.
Mm-hmm.
We had actually decided, because we were adding another kid, that we were going to upgrade our tent size, which was, I think we ended up even getting rid of that, the big tent.
We didn't need that big of a tent.
No, we didn't. But we found like a really good deal on an 8-person tent,
mm-hmm.
and we bought that. And we decided, hey, we're going to go ahead and put the pack and play in there, because
mm-hmm.
it had so much room, and it backfired.
Yes.
For starters,
got cold.
Was not August. I think we went in the first half of August, and it was freezing.
Yeah.
It was, I think
the temperature, because we were right on the lake, the temperature dropped a lot overnight. So.
I think during the day, though, it still only got up to 60.
Mm-hmm.
And this is in August. So you can imagine those temperature dips at night. So not only was our 2-year-old, well, actually at that time, our not even 1-year-old was like, there's no way you guys are leaving me in this darn freaking pack and play. Our 3-year-old was like, yeah, I'm sleeping with you guys. We were all huddled together. This was the first time I think that we had even bought like an air mattress type thing, which again, it's cold, so
mm-hmm.
it kept deflating because of the air. And then we were all on it, and the tent was huge, so you had all this cold air coming into the tent.
And it wasn't trapping the heat, and I think we actually had like the vents open too, because we're like, oh, it's August, it'll be warm.
That was our first big disaster.
Yeah, so...
Which was like it was a bummer, because now we live more on the east side of Michigan, but on the west side of the state is the lakes are beautiful. I mean, it's along Lake Michigan. That's where
mm-hmm.
you get the beautiful scenery. That's where you get a lot of vacationers and tourists and things. And the reason why I wanted to remember the park, because that actually is a very popular destination. So if you're not from Michigan or not familiar, but you want to, have a good beach experience, that is a really good state park for that. It's a beautiful beach, very nice. And if you like beach camping, if you like the environment where you're very close together and you want to be right there on the beach, it would have been perfect for you. It would have been perfect.
So for an RV or a camper, it's great.
Right.
An awesome site.
For us, when we go camping, we like to do more hiking,
mm-hmm.
and we like to do more, we like to have our campfire. We like to kind of really be more, and for us, it's more about nature. It's not just about the lake or the experience of being, it's not really a party. It's more of a...
It's about, for me personally, it's about unplugging and disconnecting for a bit, and just kind of getting back into nature and enjoying and being in the moment, really. I mean, these days we're so plugged into our phones, our computers, the TV, and so getting to be able to just sit and stare at a campfire for hours on end is wonderful for me. Like the one anniversary trip that we took up to DH Day up in northern Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's Sleeping Bear Dunes.
And Sleeping Bears. Now, again, crazy Michigan weather. This is May, where it's hit or miss if you get snow or not. And it was kind of the same weather that we had in August at Charles Muir. So, you never know what you're going to get.
But see, which was actually more. We were prepared for that.
Correct.
In May, though.
We
were prepared for that in May.
And
it was just us.
Yes. And what was nice about DH Day, which I personally loved, was I think there was only 1 or 2 RV sites at the campground. So everything there was the rustic camping that we liked. There were nice, there were trees separating the campsites. You didn't have to see your neighbors if you didn't want to. And like, I think when we got there, most of the lots were full, and you wouldn't know it.
Right. Now, see, I will say this though, that probably, when we talk about camping with kids, that might have been a little bit harder for the kids at those particular ages. So if we had, like I said, Hannah wasn't really 1, and Dylan was about 3. Oh, he actually might have been 4 by then. I seriously don't know how old my kids are. But that one would have been a little bit harder because we did end up walking to the beach because, again, you're still along the lake. We're northwest.
Right.
Instead of being southwest.
So DH Day is north of Traverse City, I think it was?
Yeah, it's actually right near Traverse City. I mean, honestly, again, if you're from Michigan, you would know Sleeping Bear Dunes.
Yeah.
If you're not, you probably still have heard of Sleeping Bear Dunes, but even if you were to look it up, it's a big tourist area. That being said, what was nice about this is it did not feel like it was a tour/vacation spot.
Right.
This was also, there are some campsites, and avid campers will have the experience or be experienced with campsites where it's first come, first serve. You can't reserve these online. Mm-hmm. You have to.
You gotta, like what we did is, I think we left really late at night on like a Tuesday or Wednesday or something.
Right.
Drove up there and just self-registered and put the little paper on the post on the site we found, and we were there. We were there for what, 3 days?
Yeah, and the nice thing about that though is because it was our anniversary trip, which is in May. Mm-hmm. We were still like at that point where you're not getting your heavy traffic yet. So for sites like that, campsites like that, especially because you're talking about trying to take kids there, be prepared. So if you want to do a rustic site and it's a non-reservable site, you need to be leaving during the middle of the week.
And make sure you have a backup and a backup for your backup.
Right, because I think that only held what, like 30 sites?
30 or 40.
30 or 40
I don't
sites.
remember. It was a few years ago.
But we've known people who've gone there, and there's literally lines to try and get in. So you don't want to be stuck in a situation where you don't have a place. Because that, for us, that's like a 4.5-hour drive.
Right. That's a long drive.
So I can't imagine doing that with the kids and then having to turn back.
Right. Or go and try and find it. Now, granted, in that area there are other campsites, but that one in particular appealed because it was the one that we found that was right on the lake that had the rustic camping.
Yeah.
And we took like, what, a 3-hour hike along the water? Mm-hmm. Which was it was gorgeous.
Which was gorgeous, but again, because you're talking about May, one of the problems, and this is something to consider both, whether or not, regardless of if you have kids, this is something to consider. In Michigan, in early May, Mosquito Haven along the lake. And I'm sure any place where you live along the lake, that's just how it is, but it is brutal. Yes. I mean, it is brutal, because there was those beautiful moments where we're walking along the lake and we're like, oh, this is awesome, and then it turns into we're hitting each other because there's just mosquitoes everywhere. Actually, we got married obviously in May, and we got married on Mackinac Island, and our photographer decided to take us along the boardwalk there for pictures. And every time I look at our wedding pictures, I can just see myself in the pictures swatting all the mosquitoes.
Well, it's nice because a couple of them look like you're twirling it, just trying to get away from the gnats that were flying around.
Yeah, and like, never mind the fact all of like the just dead bugs covering my dress by the time we got to our reception. Mm-hmm. But that was just, that's a whole tangent. Anyway, so like I said, the rustic sites, and really you have to think about what you want to do with your kids. So going back to the beach camping, easy access, great for walking to the beach with the kids. That is like the one biggest advantage where I can see people wanting to camp in the more crowded sites and be right there, because
the other thing is that particular one had plumbing as well. There was a bathhouse where it actually had flushable toilets, showers if you're comfortable using those. but a nice, easily accessible bathhouse with running water. There was also a little playground area there too.
Yeah.
So, if your kids are driving you nuts, you can send them off there. And it was a pretty big area. And there were there were kids there playing. So you can send them off to play with the other kids, and, the adults can relax and keep an eye on them depending on how close you are or what you're comfortable with.
Right. For the rustic sites, and that's why I said I think it also too depends on the age of the kids and even just the nature of the kids, because for the rustic sites, one, you're going to be your kid's source of entertainment. So you got to make sure you have games, you got to make sure you have
books,
sanity, because you're their source of entertainment. You go on nature walks, you go on hikes and things like that, and I love it because it wears them out. But again, that's contingent on you having a child that's walking. Yep. And our little diva, she sometimes just decides she doesn't want to walk. So
I turn into a Sherpa and carry her everywhere.
So it just depends on what you want, especially when you're looking at the two different versions. But the biggest thing that I would say is don't let, the lack of amenities deter you from wanting to take the kids camping. Because I think for so many people nowadays, as parents, it's like we're like almost inundated with amenities and things for our kids, like all these conveniences to keep them entertained, to keep them occupied, to keep them clean, to keep them safe. And it's just like when you have to be removed from all that, it's like I know for me, I get like terrible anxiety sometimes, and it does kind of send you into this shock, like I don't want to be away from all this. But
sometimes it's good to detox from that, though, to remove yourself from all that and force yourself to try and live as simply as you can for a bit, and
it forces them to do it. I think for me, it also lets them see me in a different sort of situation and see me where I'm a little bit more calm, a little bit more relaxed, and it's nice. It's nice to do that. It's nice to get, and it's also nice to see them in a different situation, to see how they interact and kind of get more glimpses into their little personalities.
Well, I mean, for the most part, you really only see your kids, again, in general, in the home setting, in the same every day, where you guys are still in that same place where day after day you have the same context with each other. And then, so for me, camping allows you to kind of remove that, like you said, and see them in a different setting, to expose them to something new that they may not necessarily get to experience at home. I mean, again, for example, when we went, kind of showing Dylan how to light a campfire. Something that he really wouldn't get to experience at home.
And he's really latched onto that. Like, he's latched onto that experience of it. I mean...
And he's been asking to go camping this year. He wants to a lot, which is awesome.
They're actually both ready to do it. It's kind of funny. They're both ready to go. One of the things that we do, even just outside of camping, is we do a lot of hikes with them. So they're already used to that kind of setting and situation where they know that we go camping, we're going to go hiking, we're going to do a lot of walking and that kind of thing. So they, you get them, you kind of do these little things to prepare you for that, prepare you for that experience. Like making sure that when we go for hikes, letting them participate in packing our day packs. And, then we start planning for camping, making sure that they're part of that process. Yeah. And it teaches them in a lot of ways that, you necessarily don't get that without those experiences.
Right. And also involving them helps them feel like it's also their trip rather than mom and dad are tossing me in the car and now we got to go somewhere.
Right.
So when they're involved in packing and understanding why they're packing some things and not bringing other things, it makes it theirs. It gives them ownership over that experience, so they can really sink their teeth into it and enjoy it in a way that other times they can't.
And really, it ultimately comes down to, I mean, I know we're talking about camping with kids in general, but it comes down to the fact of just making sure you are prepared. You want to prepare as best as you can. Now, that doesn't mean shove everything you possibly can into the car and prepare that way. It just means taking the basic preparations. Like for me, one of the big things is my biggest concern with when going camping, especially because we've had a big increase here in Michigan, is ticks. Ticks, and I was also pregnant during that dreaded Zika outbreak, so that was another one of my terrible fears. There are so many natural repellents. I do try to do as much as I can natural, but let me just be real here. I am not against DEET. I am not against anything heavy duty, and I'm sorry. I again, anybody who knows me, I'm all about homeopathic stuff. I'm all about natural stuff, and I always try those things first. But when it comes to the safety of my kids, when it comes to trying to protect my family, I will throw anything I can at a damn mosquito.
I'm pretty sure one of our day packs still smells like citronella like 2 years later from a natural bug spray. Now, granted, there's nothing on that pack. It's clean as the day we bought it, except for that smell, which is great because, it sits in the garage, spiders, flies, they don't bother it. But yeah, there's at least one that still smells pretty strongly of citronella.
Right. So the big thing is just you prepare. You look up, research the areas you're going to. That's one thing that we do a lot, and we try to get the kids involved in that too. Is we look at campsites before we go. We look at what the what's going on in that area, because there are some areas out in Michigan where there is a stronger prevalence of ticks. There's more likely to be ticks than in others. So we look up things like that. And then you take precautions. We found sprays that we can actually cover our whole tent in to protect it, and spray our gear and our clothes.
Or you can wash your clothes in these things too.
Right, to actually give you protection. So there's a lot of things that you can do to keep, those type of, to protect your kids and protect yourselves from those type of things. And then otherwise, just teach your kids safety.
One thing I've learned with Dylan is kids love maps. There's maps all over the place for any of these campsites, and they love to look at them. And like we have a couple of books, like it's Campsites in Michigan. I don't remember what it's called. And there have been times when I go into his room to check in on him at night, and he'll have grabbed that book and flipped through it while falling asleep. And so, again, it's another way to get the kids involved and get excited about the experience, and help them prepare. Help them say, "Oh, I want to go down this path here. I want to see what's over this," And like I said, really, to me, that's the biggest thing, is getting the kids involved so that they can make the trip their own.
Right, giving them a sense of responsibility, even just giving them that they like that.
Right,
giving them that sense of ownership over something too.
Helping them feel a little bit older than they are. But also you're also just kind of empowering them, like self-empowerment. Yeah, and
that's one thing that we really try to do, especially with Dylan, who is 6, not 5. Now that I
yes, he is.
Who is now 6? Oh my god. Okay. Anyway. We try to give him more things to do in that way, and it's noticeable how it makes our trips better, how it makes our camping experience better, and hopefully we can do that with our youngest. She's a little bit more hard-headed, but
she'll follow her brother though.
I think so. I think that they both will take the lead in that way. Yeah. But yeah, and then you teach them survival skills. That's one thing that we really are going to try to hone in on them with this year, is teaching them what to do in certain instances, and those are really good opportunities to do it.
You really don't get a better way to teach a kid how to survive than taking them out in the woods and really showing them, or even not just survival skills, but navigation. Teaching them how to, like, Megan bought me a compass for my last birthday, and I'm looking forward to teaching Dylan how to use that to find his way, how to read it with a map, teach him how to really get his hands in and build a fire, carefully, of course, because again, he's a 6-year-old, so that could really turn out badly.
I expect it to.
But, or like how to build a little shelter with, sticks, things like that. Just stuff they don't get to experience in the house or in a suburban setting. Teaching them, giving them a broader range of what they can do. It's really important to help them understand that they can do more than maybe what they do or what they think they can do. Mm-hmm. And I know for me, growing up camping, I really learned that. I actually attended the camp that I worked at when I was a little bit younger. And that was my first real experience at a overnight camp. I did 2 weeks essentially backpacking through the Upper Peninsula. And it's an experience that you don't get outside of that environment, outside of that experience. And you really learn a lot about yourself and how you'll handle situations.
So I guess, those would be like the biggest things with camping with kids is definitely do it. Don't be afraid to do it.
Right.
You just pick a time, pick a place and do it. Mm-hmm. And be prepared. Be prepared for as much as you can be, but also be prepared to not be prepared.
Right. Be prepared to do without some stuff that you're going to forget. Make sure you have, the essentials and work around the rest.
Exactly. And trust your kids, okay? Trust your kids to enjoy the experience and to, get the most out of it. Trust them to be able to handle that kind of experience if you haven't been already. And honestly, the biggest thing is trust yourself. It's hard as a parent, because we always want to do right by our kids. We always want to make sure that they're safe and, contain them. But ultimately, trust yourself as a parent. Trust your instincts. And know that regardless of what comes up or what happens, you'll be fine. You just you dive right in and you'll be fine.
And then you learn from it and learn from those mistakes and do it again.
Yep. And honestly, you should have probably said this at the beginning, but one of my biggest suggestions is if you have not been camping with kids before, go somewhere close.
Yes.
Find a campsite close to home.
Mm-hmm.
Because that way you can, if something goes wrong, I remember a friend told me a horror story where they got to their campsite, unpacked everything, and they did not have diapers. And
that ends badly.
That ends badly, and they weren't really too much closer to a store than they were home. Mm-hmm. So they ended up being able to go home. But stay close. Mm-hmm. Just in case the experience gets too overwhelming, in case there's just something, where the kids aren't liking it or whatever.
Freak thunderstorms.
Yeah, just stay close to home for the first one. Mm-hmm. For the first one or two, I should say.
Yeah, for the first couple, stay home, get more comfortable being out in the woods with your kids. If you have the opportunity, go with your significant other alone. So if you personally don't have a lot of experience camping, go with your significant other and spend a weekend in the woods with the kids, at their grandparents, again, depending on your situation. Learn about yourself a little bit before you take your kids out into the woods, and then build on that.
Right. And honestly, start with hiking. Start with little day hikes. Mm-hmm. Start getting out in the woods just, together as a family and enjoy it that way.
Yeah.
Experience it that way and build upon that. So it doesn't have to be some big thing at first. If you wanted to go camping and you wanted to take the kids, start small. Okay? Start within your comfort zone and build up to it. It doesn't have to be an instant thing. and don't expect to instantly love it.
Yeah.
Because everybody's experience is going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
I know for me, I love it. I have several friends who they're like, I will come with you, but we will be staying in a hotel. so it's definitely something that you have to figure out for yourself first.
Yes, definitely.
And with that, we want to thank you for listening and stay tuned for next week where we're going to talk a little bit more about doing some day hiking.